What is up, everyone? We have finally reached the Stanley Cup Final, the Vegas Golden Knights and the Washington Capitals. And let me tell you, this Stanley Cup Final, it's got an interesting storyline to it. The Vegas Golden Knights, the expansion team, the expansion franchise, whatever you want to call it, in their first season, they made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Final. And they're 4 wins away from winning the Stanley Cup in their first ever season. On the Washington Capitals, you got Alex Ovechkin, who has fought his entire career to get to the Stanley Cup Final, and he has finally gotten there to the promised land. But he needs 4 more wins to get his hands on the Stanley Cup for the first time in his career. So this is a great storyline, and this is going to show who wants it more. Johnny Talk Sports here to provide you with my Stanley Cup Final preview and predictions. Let's not waste any more time. Let's just break this down. The Golden Knights, being led by Marc-Andre Fleury at goaltender. I said in the beginning of these playoffs that if the Golden Knights wanted to go on a deep run, Marc-Andre Fleury had to carry this Vegas Golden Knights team, just like what Henrik Lundqvist did for the Rangers when they made the Stanley Cup Final. And I think Marc-Andre Fleury is doing exactly that, maybe even a little bit better. Because the Vegas Golden Knights, they have not played a Game 7 yet in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Vegas Golden Knights have been able to finish each of these playoff matchups earlier. They didn't have to take it to 7 games. They've got it done in 4, 6, and 5. So they've got them done pretty early in 2 of them. One of them had to take a little bit extra. But the Golden Knights, I think they're very well rested heading into this Stanley Cup Final. I think maybe a couple days of the extra rest could pay off in Game 1. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that at the prediction part. The Washington Capitals, Alex Ovechkin, can he finally get it done? Can he be like the Philadelphia Eagles, finally win a championship? Can the Capitals finally get a Stanley Cup? Can Alex Ovechkin finally get a Stanley Cup? 2 guys that I think are going to have to be a difference maker in this series, one for each team. For the Golden Knights, I think it's got to be Jonathan Mercillaud, who is one of the secret weapons to this Vegas Golden Knights team, who's having a career season with the Golden Knights. 27 goals in the regular season and 8 goals in this Stanley Cup playoffs. And for the Capitals, I think it's got to be TJ Oshie. TJ Oshie's got to be that second man to Alex Ovechkin, just like he's been for the playoffs so far. So those are just a difference maker for each guy, or for each team. One guy for each team. So let's ultimately get to what I think could end up being a difference in this Stanley Cup Final. It could be how these teams feel psychologically. I know it's kind of stupid to maybe see how they're feeling psychologically, but really, it could be a difference. Especially, it could dictate who could end up winning the series if a team jumps out to a 2-0 lead. In particular, if the Capitals jump out to a 2-0 lead, how do the Golden Knights respond, being down 2-0 if this is what happens? I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but what if it happens? The Golden Knights, they have not been in a situation where they've had to overcome adversity. Maybe just a little bit, but not really adversity of people were doubting them. It's almost like the Predators last year, where nobody really thought anything of the Nashville Predators. They were just there. But then they made the Stanley Cup Final. And they could have ended up winning the Stanley Cup Final argumentatively. You could argue and say they could have won the Stanley Cup Final, but I don't think they would have won. And maybe I don't think they would have won a Game 7 last year. But how would Vegas respond if they went down 2-0 early in the series? Just like I was saying, they don't know how to overcome the adversities. They didn't have to face any yet, because they swept the Ducks. They got past the Sharks in 6 games. They got past the Jets in 5. So they weren't in a position where they had to face adversity. But the Capitals have been in that position. They overcome it every single time, including in the first round, going down 0-2 to the Columbus Blue Jackets and coming back to win 4 straight to win that series. In the second round, the adversity of it's just going to be the same story. Everyone thought the Penguins were the better team, but they ended up pulling out the series. In the Eastern Conference Final, they had to win Game 6 on their home ice, and they had to win Game 7 on the road. And not only did they overcome the adversity of winning a must-win Game 6, a do-or-die game, and another do-or-die game in Game 7, not only did they win them both, but they dominated in both of them. And let's not forget that Braden Holtby, he's stepped up in the last 2 games. He's been a wall for this Capitals defense. So if you want to talk about which team has momentum going into this, I would maybe lean towards more 55-45 in favor of the Capitals. I think Vegas has the confidence that nobody thought they were going to be there. But the Capitals, they overcame the adversity, and they've done it in dominating fashion. They haven't given up a goal since Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final. So the last 2 games, they haven't given up a goal. So Braden Holtby, I think he's got some confidence going to him now. In the first round, it was kind of not going the Capitals' way early on. But I think ever since that, I think the Capitals have gotten stronger. Game 6 and Game 7, those are the best games I think the Capitals have played all season. So that's a huge confidence booster going into the Stanley Cup Final. So ultimately, let's get to the predictions. Game 1, I know that I'm saying that the Capitals have the confidence, especially Braden Holtby in the net minding position. But I just think the couple of extra days rest for Vegas is going to pay off. I think Vegas wins Game 1. And I think this is the type of game that could end up going into overtime. I think that could ultimately be an overtime game. This could be a low scoring game. This could be like a 2-1 game that goes into overtime, maybe even 2 overtimes. But I think Vegas wins Game 1. Game 2, I think the Capitals respond and win Game 2. And I think this is like a game where the Capitals probably dominate this one because they are able to respond to the adversity, just like they've done all playoffs. So I think the Capitals win Game 2. Game 3, I think we'll go to the Washington Capitals. Game 3 seems like the type of game where Ovechkin steps up. Ovechkin gets 2 goals in the game, and it's the difference maker for the Capitals. So right now, I have the Capitals leading 2-1. Game 4, I think Marc-Andre Fleury shuts the door down on the Capitals. This is a type of game where this could be that type of game where Marc-Andre Fleury gets a shutout and Vegas wins Game 4. Game 5. Now, at this point, it's a best 2 out of 3. And Game 5, I think we'll go to the Washington Capitals. I think this is the type of game where somebody else that we don't expect from the Washington Capitals, it's not Alex Ovechkin, it's not TJ Oshie, it's not Braden Holtby, steps up to the plate. I think the Capitals win Game 5, and they lead 3-2. Game 6. Now, this is where the pressure gets on for both teams. The Capitals, they have the pressure of 1 win away from winning the Stanley Cup, and the Vegas Golden Knights. In this scenario, it's the first time all season that the Vegas Golden Knights have to overcome adversity. And I think they do it. I think this is a type of game where they respond. Maybe not win the prettiest of fashions, but I think Vegas wins Game 6. And Game 7, the one for all the marbles. I don't want to say it as a Penguins fan, but in Game 7, I think the Washington Capitals pull it off. I think this is finally the year the Capitals get it done. I like the Washington Capitals to win the Stanley Cup in 7 games. So comment your prediction down below. Like, subscribe to the channel. Share this with your friends and family. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Enjoy the Stanley Cup Final. I really want Vegas to win, but I just kind of think that the Capitals, they've got the confidence right now. They faced the adversity all playoff long, but the Vegas Golden Knights haven't really faced any adversity yet. And I think that's ultimately the difference. I think the Capitals, they've been there and done that throughout the playoffs. The Golden Knights haven't. So that's my prediction. Capitals in 7. I'll see you next time.